Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning from everywhere that you are joining us this morning. You are welcome to Dawn Commission. This is the development dialogue on tax policy reform in Nigeria. We want to welcome all of us to this webinar this morning. Perhaps we wait a little again while other state representatives and other people join. Just a couple of minutes, we kick off the conversation. You are most welcome.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, please. We can hear you loud and clear.
You have muted yourself. Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please. We can hear you, please.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. You are welcome, Mr. Shitabe. Thank you for joining us. So we are just want to give a couple of minutes for other people to join here and there. We want to welcome everyone who have joined. Thank you for joining this morning.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
So I'll join you briefly. Let me just drink some water, then I'll join you back.
That's no problem. That's no problem. Thank you. Yes, good morning once again, everyone. We are welcome to this development dialogue. We are trying to give opportunity for people to join. In a couple of minutes now, we shall start. So just be patient with us. Thank you for joining from every part of the country, from everywhere. Thank you for joining. In the next few minutes, by 11:10, we shall kick off the conversation. Thank you for waiting. Good morning, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining us. You are welcome to Dawn Commission. This is the development agenda for Western Nigeria, and this is the development dialogue on the tax policy reforms. We want to welcome all our guests this morning from all the states, particularly we welcome all the invited guests this morning. So, on behalf of the Director General, Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, I want to welcome all of us this morning. I welcome the Mr. Chairman, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Thank you for joining us this morning. I want to also welcome Dr. Zach Adedeji, Chairman FRS. Thank you. I want to welcome all our invited guests, Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, the CEO of NESG, and Mr. Teslim Shitabe, the Chief Economist at Proshare. I also want to welcome all our state representatives, the special advisors to governors on tax and revenues, the state chairmen of Internal Revenue Service, and the commissioners and members from the ministries of budget and economic planning from all our states, Ekiti, Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, and Oyo State. I want to welcome everyone who is joining us from the private sector, the organized private sector, from the media, from all walks of life, and the general public. Thank you for joining us this morning. The conversation this morning is on the recent tax policy reform, and we've titled it the National Navigating Tax Policy Reform, how to unlock the subnational opportunities for fiscal resilience. We hope that today's meeting is going to be insightful as we have the main actors in the tax policy reform in Nigeria, both from the policy and from the policy platform and the private sector. We want to welcome you this morning. Let's have a little housekeeping rules for us to be able to have good engagement this morning. Kindly keep your mic muted until you need to speak. Then we can also engage with us via our platforms during the comment session. If you have comments or anything to say, you can quickly engage the chat box to state your questions this morning. So we also want you to be free to make your contributions and your comments. And you can also reach us all through our social media to be able to make your contributions. So we believe that today's tax development dialogue on tax policy reform is going to be insightful, and we are going to forge a conversation which will increase the competitiveness of our subnational in Nigeria, and whereby by the time the tax policy reform finally comes into implementation by January 2026, the state and every important stakeholders will have been ready for the implementation, and that will be a proper understanding of the tax policy reform and how it affects both the government, the private sector, the firms, and the household themselves. So this tax reform dialogue is to be able to inform us, enlighten us, and to also forge ahead on how to increase competitiveness. So without wasting much of our time, by the way, my name is Adesoji Faraibi from Dawn Commission. I'll be the anchor for this program. I'm the head of economic development and research at the commission. So without wasting much of our time, I would like to call on the Director General, Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, for his welcome address as we kickstart the meeting. DG, sir, your welcome address.
Thank you, Soji. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Honorable commissioners, our invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this discourse. It's part of our development discourse series. And today, as Soji did say, we want to navigate Nigeria's new tax policy reforms. And we're glad that we have taken it directly to those who conceptualized and gave this to the country. Let me start by congratulating Mr. Taiwo Oyedele and his team for their doggedness in seeing this through. We followed you guys every step of the way. So I want to congratulate you for getting to this stage. As I said, this gathering comes at a very pivotal moment in our nation's economic trajectory. With the recent signing of the landmark reforms by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the tax administration bill, and the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board bill has come into place, and we are looking forward to the implementation in 2026. Now, as the coordinating institution for regional development in the Southwest, Dawn Commission is proud to convene this roundtable to critically assess the implications of these reforms for our subnational economies. Our area of concern as Dawn is the subnational economy. Dawn Commission covers Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, and Ekiti states. And I'm sure we have our budget and planning commissioners and we have our SSGs here. I've seen the SSG Ondo. Dr. Fashanoti is already here sitting. It shows the seriousness with which we have taken this, because we believe that this tax is no longer tax bill now, the laws. It's once in a generation change that we cannot afford to just take it lightly and not be ready as a region. This is the Southwest is the economic lifeblood of Nigeria, indeed West Africa. So our role at Dawn is not just to facilitate regional integration, but also to ensure that the states are equipped to leverage opportunities for subnational transformation. So in this regard, we are committed to working with our state governments, revenue agencies, private sector stakeholders, civil society, and indeed development partners to build institutional capacity, address technological and administrative gaps, and then promote best practices in tax administration. That is what we are hoping this type of discourse today will provide. So again, as I said, the discourse is to foster knowledge, exchange ideas, evaluate, very important, the institutional preparedness, and also propose collaborative solutions which will enhance the effectiveness of these reforms in the subnationals. The outcomes of today's discussions, ranging from institutional development plans to digital infrastructure recommendations, will be instrumental in shaping a regional framework for fiscal resilience and development. So I want to thank you most especially for honoring our invitation and bringing your expertise to this vital discourse. As we deliberate today, we remain focused on the broader objectives of ensuring that the Southwest region is not only compliant with the new national tax laws, but strategically positioned to harness the reforms as a catalyst for regional competitiveness and growth. As I said earlier on, the Southwest is the lifeblood of the country economically, and we need to ensure that we are compliant. We need to also ensure that we're on top of our game. We shouldn't just assume. We've read everywhere that maybe one or two of our states might be holding the short end of the stick with these new reforms. But again, we see that as a challenge for growth if we do the proper things. That's why we are excited to have you on board this morning. And once again, thank you for honoring our invitation. And the discourse floor is open. Thank you once again. Taiwo Oyedele is my name.
Thank you, DJ, for the welcome address. We appreciate you. I also like to quickly introduce the state, the participants from others from the states, which are from our states in all the states. The chairman LRS in Lagos, Mr. Oyedele Subaru, and his team, the essay on tax and revenue in Lagos State. Want to also welcome the Lagos State Minister of Budget and Planning from the commissioner. Want to welcome from Ekiti, Mr. DJ Adebieri, the SSA on tax. We want to also welcome the Honorable Commissioner too, Mr. Femi Ajayi. We welcome the Executive Chairman, Ekiti Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Olanino Olatono. We welcome from Ogun State, the Honorable Commissioner, Budget and Planning, Olalu Olabinton. We welcome the Executive Chairman of Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. We also welcome the SA to the Governor on Tax and Revenue. So we welcome from Osun State, the Honorable Commissioner. Welcome the SA on tax matters. We also welcome the Chairman of Osun State LRS. Well, from Ondo, we welcome Mr. Bayo Roju Boki, the Acting Chairman of Ondo State. We welcome from the Commissioner of Budget and Planning. We want to also welcome from Oyo State, Honorable Commissioner Professor Babatunde Adetuyi, and we also welcome the Chairman Oyo State Internal Revenue Service. So we welcome every one of us from all the states. DJ has welcomed other people. As time goes on, we shall also recognize any other people. So without wasting most of our time, we want to go into the next session, which is the goodwill message from Dr. Zach Adedeji, the FRS chairman. Yeah, so why we waiting for that? I guess maybe has not joined us. Maybe perhaps when you join, we can we always welcome his address. Perhaps the high point of the meeting is the keynote address, which shall be presented by the chairman, the Presidential Committee of Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Is a known person, and I would like to, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is the expert on tax policy. He is the chairman, the Presidential Committee of Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform. He leads the team of experts and other stakeholders to design and implement reforms that enhance the fiscal governance, revenue transformation, and facilitate sustainable economic growth in Nigeria. He has previously worked with as the fiscal policy partner and Africa tax leader at PwC, where he advised policy, public and private sector clients on tax matters and strategic planning and policy analysis across continent. With over 20 years of experience, Mr. in finance, business, and economic matters, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is passionate about creating positive impact through research, education, and policy advocacy. He's the author and keynote speaker and strategist on various platforms. Also professor of practice at Bako University and a lecturer at Lagos State Business School, and host of others. Recently, he celebrated his 58th birthday. So perhaps this is another lecture, another birthday lecture for him. So please join me as I welcome Mr. Chairman, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, as he gives his keynote address. Mr. Chairman, sir, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my brother, and good morning, distinguished participant. Thank you for inviting me. A very big thank you to Don Commission for this initiative. I think it's good that you're demonstrating leadership in terms of learning, in terms of capacity building, and in terms of visioning. So it's quite commendable. I'm grateful that you're able to do this. I know the time I have is limited, so I'll get on straight into my presentation, which is really a keynote address focusing on the new tax reform laws. So the outline I want to take you through in about 30 minutes, it's to provide the context and then to tell us where else we'll be if we didn't do the reforms, and what are the key changes and the benefits to stakeholders, including subnationals. So this is the proverbial blind man and the elephant. And I'm sure many of us are familiar with this proverb. So you see the elephants and you see the blind to figure out what the objects in front of them looks like. And depending on which part of the elephant they touched, they had an impression of what the object is, from it being a wall to a rope to a tree to a snake to a spear to a fan. So this is exactly the analogy for the tax reform laws. If you focus on one aspect, you will not get the full picture. So we need to spend the time, we need to spend the effort, we need to do the intellectual work of trying to go through all of them and then be able to piece it together and make the best of this reform, because reforms are only just as good as how well they are implemented. So having said that, why do we need reforms? Again, another analogy that I like to use is that if the global tax systems were cars in a race, Nigeria will look like the 1960 VW that you can see there at the bottom of this slide. The top African countries in terms of the tax system, like South Africa, like Rwanda, will be like the more modern car in the middle. And for the very developed countries like the OECD, it will be the Cybertruck that you see to the top of the slide. And that's because our system is not working. A lot of the laws we implement today in Nigeria for the tax system, we inherited from our colonial masters. And even for the colonial masters, those were laws they had produced long before our independence, as old as the 1901 ordinance that gave the Stamp Duty Act. We've not done a lot to that as of 2024, 2025. So in this analogy, it doesn't matter how good a driver you are or how hard you pray. This is a race you cannot win. And we know that the world is a global village where countries have to compete for talent, they have to compete for capital and investment, and all of that will determine the growth and the shared prosperity that they can offer their citizens. So this is critical and very fundamental. In fact, we think that this will be the most consequential reform that has happened to Nigeria maybe since our independence, but certainly in the past few decades. Now, I know that, different people with different objectives, especially politicians, and I know we're united on this call as Nigerians, but then, of course, you have people with different political leaning, and they can bring different spin and twisting to issues. But we'd like to just stay on the facts. And staying with the fact means Nigeria is no longer where we used to be, and that is for good. We know there have been a number of reforms, most significant being the subsidy removal, the Naira flotation, and now the tax reforms. These reforms, some of them are painful, but they are necessary, and they are beginning to yield positive microeconomic results. And I'll just give you the data, and you can verify this if you want. You can do the research on your own. Before May 2023, this was where we were. From the fiscal side, particularly, and some economic indicators, we had huge trade deficits and negative balance of payments. We had multiple official exchange rate windows, and there was a wide margin with the parallel market, resulting into arbitrage. If you were very close to the CBN governor or some guys at the presidency, you can become a billionaire in Naira overnight. Just get about $2-3 million you don't have to pay for at 460 and sell it the following day or the same day at 750 in the parallel market. So government was allocating and determining who wins and who loses in the economy. So manufacturers were no longer getting FX to buy their inputs and machineries, Many companies were not getting FX, including airlines, and some of them discontinued operation in Nigeria. You remember Emirates, for example. And Nigeria was ranked the top in the world, a country that is holding down the remittances of foreign airlines. It was a very bad period for us. We got removed from a lot of global lists, including the global bond list, which meant that our bonds were no longer attractive, and we were very close to junk level in terms of our credit rating. So we had over 7 billion unmet demand. Our external reserve unencumbered, that is what really net that belongs to us, if you take out commitment, was under $4 billion for the whole country. This is barely enough to satisfy 1 or 2 months of imports. Our tax to GDP ratio was less than 10%. We're spending almost all of our revenue to service debt. It was at 97% as of 2022. And the subsidy regime became, of course, it's always been unsustainable. It was then close to the breaking point as of 2023. We had product scarcity from time to time, and there were always excuses for why there's no fuel. Either because we imported the wrong quality of PMS, or some people have gone on strike, or CBN, or sorry, not CBN, or NNPC cannot find the cash to pay on time. There were all manners of things, and the country was really suffering. We had high budget deficits, and we're spending very little on capital expenditure across all levels, including subnational. We had printed over 30 trillion naira in ways and means to do all manner of things other than development. And on top of those 30 trillion that we printed, we had accumulated interest of about 7 trillion naira. This is one of the major reasons why inflation in Nigeria is high today. When you print money to spend, inflation will not come the following day. It takes time because you had more currency in circulation than the level of productivity. So decline in oil and gas production, we were not able to meet our OPEC quota. At some point, we were just barely above 1 million barrels a day. We had market-unfriendly policies. The former president himself didn't even believe in markets. So high and inflation was rising. Poverty was all over the place. We didn't have decent jobs. Government policies were not properly coordinated. Government did not communicate properly, and public financial state management was not efficient, and interest rates was high. So because I know many people will say, how much is a bag of rice today and how much was it in 2023? And then they'll say, is your life better now? I said, that's like comparing mangoes and apples. That's not what to compare. You compare what is now that with what could have been, not what was before. So today, where are we in terms of the outcomes? So it's not all green, it's not all positive, but there is a lot of positives and things are moving in the right direction, especially from the macro levels. And you need to fix the macro level for you to deal with the micro. Micro is what the people will feel in their lives on a day-to-day basis, in the house, on the streets. But that's not where to start. Where to start is the macro. Okay, it's like a mother that has a child. If the mother is sick, the child will suffer. So once the mother is well, the mother can take care of the child. So we now have trade surplus. Our balance of payment is positive, and these are in billions of dollars. Exchange rates in the official market is unified, and the gap between the official rate and the parallel market has been reduced significantly. FS forwards have been cleared. Our net reserve grew from under 4 billion to now over 23 billion in just 2 years. Our tax to GDP ratio is 13.5. They just rebased our GDP yesterday, so we're working on rebasing the tax to GDP ratio calculation. But whatever it was, we made significant progress in 2 years. Our debt service to revenue ratio is now under 50%. We have stopped the wasteful subsidy, and product availability is guaranteed. Dangote is begging people to come and take fuel. The reserve that it has, over 500 million liters. So Dangote has become the national reserve for Nigeria. So we can go to sleep now, knowing that we will not wake up one day in Nigeria and see a long queue of people wanting to buy fuel. That's behind us, and that's progress. Budget deficit is declining. We even see federal government paying back some of their debts, as well as states. I think overall, states in Nigeria have paid back more than 30% of their debts, and they are spending more now on infrastructure, even though we want them to spend even more, because these sacrifices of the Nigerian people that has resulted in more revenue to the government is a big sacrifice that is painful for many of our citizens. And the only way to cushion that impact is to spend money where it matters to them. So they don't have to spend all days traveling around because the roads are bad. They don't have to spend all the money to hand they have paying illegal taxes. They don't have to struggle to put their kids in school. They don't have to struggle to be able to take care of their health. We must prioritize spending in these key areas that will make meaningful impact in the lives of our people. Government is paying down the ways and means, and government has stopped printing naira to spend. Crude oil and gas production are on the increase. The rig count, rig is what they use to do these production activities, is up from under 10 rigs to over 40 rigs as we speak. And that means that the outlook for production is even positive. All the rating agencies have upgraded our credit rating. When your credit rating is upgraded, it's a big deal because it means you save money when you borrow, not only the sovereign, but also even the entities within the country. So this will have a ripple effect that is positive on our economy. We're also very positive that even future reviews will result in even further upgrade for Nigeria if we stay the course. We have now a market-friendly government where the policies are positive, and you can just see the result of that in the capital market, where there has been a lot of rally recently. And even before then, in the past 2 years, you've seen the capital market performing well in Nigeria. We've seen declining. Inflation is still very high, but it's beginning to decline and moderate. Latest one now being 22.22%. There are some people who are unhappy about the rebasing of the CPI basket, and I don't understand it. You were using old classification, old base to calculate, and we use something that is more reflective, and some people are angry about it. If anybody wants to know the true situation of things, they should use, more credible data. It doesn't mean that, people misunderstand when you say inflation is declining. It is not the same thing as saying that the prices of goods and services are coming down. No. The fact that you still have inflation means the prices are going up. So we're saying the prices are still going up, but they're going up at a slower rate. So you can't say, oh, they say inflation is reducing, but the price of Gary is still high. So it's a misunderstanding of the data. But we have areas where we are not seeing the results we want yet, including poverty level. Finding decent job is still very hard. Interest rate and be able to survive, because if NPR is 27.5, banks have to put a margin to it because their CRR, capital reserve ratio, is even 50%. So that way, when you borrow for business, is very high. But here's the real story. If this government has not done those reforms 2 years ago, this is where we will be today. Our deficits, trade deficits, and balance of payment will be negative. Our multiple exchange rates and the margin between that and the parallel market would have widened. Our unmet demand of FX would have grown far more than 7 billion. It would be over 10 billion today, and many more businesses would have stopped operating in Nigeria. Our tax to GDP ratio will be much below 10%, and we'll be spending all our revenue over 100% to service debts. The fuel subsidy regime would have collapsed on its own because the NNPC had used all our revenue from crude oil to subsidize. It was not enough. They were using future production as commitment to borrow to be able to subsidize PMS. They took taxes that they're supposed to pay. They stopped paying them. They started taking the taxes of the other operators in the sector, and they said to FRS, we're sorry, we're using the tax to pay subsidy. No, when you get to the point where you finish using all your resources now, and it's not enough, and you are using your future resources to subsidize, of course, once you finish using the future resources, what will happen is you will hold 10,000 naira and you will not be able to find 1 liter of petrol. Thank God we didn't get to that point, but we're very close to that point. Inflation that we have, that we are complaining about, it will not be 30%, it will not be 40%. Our inflation will be in 1,000%. There was a time in Zimbabwe, the inflation was in 1,000,000%. Prices were changing when doubling like every other day, right? Thank God we didn't get to that point, because that would have been a real disaster for our economy. Budget deficits would have increased even more, and there would be more poverty. We would have printed more money, like 50 trillion, and we will have oil and gas production that will be, much lower than even 1 million barrels per day, and on and so on and so forth. So the point here is for us to be able to recognize the need for the reforms and appreciate the sacrifices of the Nigerian people, but then to not, be going around with narrative that suggests that we could have left what we were doing 2 years ago. We would no longer have a country if we had done that. So with that context, how are we reforming? So the reforms are focused on the people, the Nigerian people. They're focused on growth, and they're focused on efficiency. So you see that in the highlight, I have not said revenue as your objective, because revenues can only come from economic activities. So if you put the people first and you put growth first and efficiency, there will be more economic activities, and therefore more revenue will come naturally. So what have we done? We've done exemption of withholding tax for manufacturers, small businesses, and we've reduced withholding tax rates for many other sectors, including services. The idea being that if these people are borrowing at 35%, 40% in some cases, why do you have to hold their money in advance? Their tax is not due yet. You hold all of their cash in advance. They have to go and borrow at high rate. The money they could be using for their working capital to be able to produce more. So we thought that the best way to go about this is to reduce the burden on business cash flow. We've increased the exemption threshold for small businesses so they can breathe. We think that majority of the small businesses have no capacity to pay tax. And if we focus on just the top 3%, for example, we'll make even more money than trying to chase everybody around. Our tax system is now progressive, from income tax to VAT to capital gains tax. All of them are progressive now, which means you pay more the more income that you earn. We've eliminated taxes on investment and capital, and we have rationalized our incentive scheme. You'll be aware that we no longer have pioneer status, and we've now introduced economic development incentive for priority sectors in a way that is very clear. The rules are clear, the qualifications are clear, thresholds are clear, and we have sunset provisions so that we don't have incentives that are useful today, but are wasteful in 20 years' time, and nobody looks at them again. We've seen that a lot in the past. We've harmonized taxes that are collected for the federation, and the ones that are being collected by the federal government are being harmonized. We reduce the tax VAT burden on businesses, on individuals, and households. What are we doing? We're working on a national fiscal policy framework. It's about to be finalized. We're having engagement with the subnational, particularly the governors, to get their endorsement first. Then tariffs are being reviewed. We have instances where the import duties on raw materials and intermediate products in Nigeria is higher than the finished good. You want people to produce goods in your country, but you are charging them more for getting the raw material, and you're making it easier to import the final product. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then harmonizing, so I told you about harmonization. We've not been able to harmonize taxes at the subnational level because you can't do that by an act of National Assembly. You need to amend the Constitution. So the process of amending the Constitution is ongoing, but in the meantime, we are harmonizing federally collectible taxes, and we are also engaging with the subnational to, on their own, voluntarily harmonize the taxes that they collect, pending when the Constitution is amended. What government wants is more money, and you don't need 20 and 50 taxes to collect more money. You can have 1 or 2 taxes that give you 10 times what you collect from 50 different taxes, because you improve efficiency, there's clarity, you reduce apathy for paying taxes for the taxpayers, and you just gain from all of those efficiency. We're developing a national policy on excise tax on harmful products like cigarette, tobacco, that's tobacco, alcohol, as well as sugar-sweetened beverages. We're developing regulations and guidelines to implement these reforms, and we are promoting formalization of businesses. This will benefit states and local governments significantly because the regime we have currently discourages formalization of businesses. And we're introducing technology to know when people are lying about their tax affairs, because it's natural anywhere in the world that if you don't have a system that is effective, people would under-declare their income, so they don't want to pay taxes. And if they get away with it once, they will do it again the next time. In fact, they will increase the scale of their tax evasion. So we're no longer going to allow that to continue, because if you allow evasion to continue, you provide incentive for bad behavior and a disincentive for good behavior. There are things we plan to do. I told you about the subnational taxes and levies. Most of the multiple taxes that put a lot of burden on the Nigerian people are at the local government level. So that engagement and work is ongoing as we speak. Once we're able to deliver on that, the average Nigerian will see a big relief in terms of the burden of tax that they have to contend with. We're working on a presumptive tax regime for not just the informal sector, even high net worth individuals that refuse to tell us their income. We'll do presumptive tax on them and we'll collect the taxes. We want to address structural issues like why is there issue around inflation arising from taxes? You know, the taxes you pay on the road when you move goods around is adding to inflation in Nigeria. So we have to address that. And reduce corporate tax rates for businesses, because our corporate tax rate is in the top 10 highest in the world. A country where you are begging for investment and you want your country to grow is not the country where you have the highest tax burden on businesses. We're also working on reforming the budgeting system. I told you about the constitutional amendment, and we are planning a tax amnesty scheme before the end of the year. In terms of the design, we can roll it out from early next year. And this, of course, will be driven largely by the Joint Revenue Board, involving all the state internal revenue services. What do we expect from all these reforms? A lot of benefits. Everyone will benefit. Even the rich people that we are trying to tax more, overall, they will even benefit. Remember the elephant? So if you take one aspect, you will say maybe rich people will pay more taxes. But if you take everything holistically, you will realize that even the rich people will have some benefits. At the end of the day, of course, less benefit than the poor. We are reducing business risk, because instead of taxing people on their capital, you wait and tax them only on their profit. When you tax people on their capital, you can kill that business. Whereas if I tax you only on your profit, you continue to survive and be in business for the foreseeable future. Lower the tax burden, ensure the rates are competitive. We want to attract headquarter location to Nigeria. People should come and set up businesses in Nigeria and venture into the rest of Africa out of Nigeria and even to the rest of the world. That way you can attract top jobs to come into Nigeria. You know, we're speaking 2 days ago at an event, or was it Friday last week? I can't remember now. And, you know, this guy that has 2 unicorns in Nigeria that we all know, you know, saying, so the companies are headquartered in Delaware in the US, but these are Nigerian businesses owned by Nigerians, but the environment is hostile. So they went to other places. Now we're trying to attract them to come back to Nigeria, bring those companies to be headquartered in Nigeria here. And once you do that, you bring all your top executives to come to Nigeria. And that means a lot for our economy. So those are the things we are working on. Household will see a reduction of the taxes they pay on their income on one hand, and then they will see a reduction in the taxes they pay on their consumption. So this is a two-pronged approach to relieving the Nigerians of the burden that they currently have to bear. So low-income earners will not pay PAYE, and when they buy food, there will be no VAT on those food because it's zero rated. Zero rated means there's no VAT on the item, and any VAT incurred in producing that item or service is refunded by the government. So that will bring down the prices of food and other goods that are essential, including education and healthcare. Then for government, there will be a lot of benefits. In fact, these are reform. The biggest benefit is going to the states. This was why when the governors were disagreeing with us, it was a bit painful because we had gone to Mr. President and begged him to cede some of the federal government revenue to the states, including VAT. 1/3 of the VAT revenue of the federal government is now going to the states. And Mr. President obliged. And I was talking about local government. Before I finished my sentence, he said, I hope you are not asking me to shed more weight, because he has given away so much. And instead of even the states, appreciating Mr. President, they were abusing him. But as a leader, I think for him, he understands that things can go, that way sometimes when you are trying to do reforms. People tend to appreciate you, much later. It might even be another 10 years or 15 years. There have been a lot as well. The electronic money transfer, we believe, is part of stamp duties. In our new law now, the revenue from stamp duties, including electronic money transfer, will go exclusively to states. They are not sharing it with anybody because Section 163 of the Constitution says that stamp duty is the exclusive revenue of the states. Previous governments did not respect that provision. These tax laws will fix that problem. We also have provisions in the new tax laws about digital assets, virtual assets. And the bulk of the people doing cryptocurrency are individual, maybe 99%, maybe even 99.9%, they are individuals. So that revenue would also accrue to the states. So states have to look at these reforms with excitement and be ready to optimize the benefits overall that will accrue to them. And more importantly, use that benefit for the purpose of the people. We don't have to be building, the most expensive governors' offices and all these things that we tend to spend money on. We just need to be honest with ourselves. So in conclusion, we can build a prosperous Nigeria together. I'm very, very convinced and confident about this. Better days are ahead of us, and that's because the worst is behind us. It can only get better from this point forward. I was saying at an event yesterday, and one of the journalists reached out to me today to clarify. And the point I made was, if we had done some of these reforms like 10 years ago, at the beginning of the previous administration, Nigeria today will be more than a $1 trillion economy. The exchange rate of the naira to the dollar will be less than 500 naira. The price of band A electricity will be less than 1/5 of what it is. The size of our middle class will be about 10 times more than it is. And that means every company around the world will pay attention to us because it will have the purchasing power. Poverty level in Nigeria will be much lower than it is. So just imagine where we could have been if we did this reform before. We delayed for so long, and it comes with a very huge cost to us. We used to be the biggest economy in Africa. There was a time when Nigeria's GDP was over 600 billion. Today, even after the rebasing, we're still less than $250 billion. We've lost a lot of opportunity, but we can rebuild again if we just stay the course, if we are honest with ourselves, if we were sincere, and if we put our best foot forward always. You have some of the smartest people in the world are Nigerians, but we don't give them the opportunity to lead in our country. And if we allow, it's almost like having, a herd of lions and they are being led by a sheep. They will underperform. Whereas even if you have a group of sheep and they are led by a lion, you see them behave as if they're all lions. We need to do more of that. One thing that we can credit to President Tinubu is his ability to identify talent. We need to do more of that and scale it everywhere, even at the federal government level, do more of it, and particularly so at the state level. Let's do more of it. We must stay the course. We cannot start celebrating that we pass tax laws or we remove subsidy. It's the beginning of the work, not the end of it. So we cannot be complacent. More work is still needed. I would appeal to everyone to seek understanding. If we don't properly understand the problems, we'll be prescribing the wrong prescription. And we'll waste time and effort and resources chasing shadows that will never solve our problems. This happens a lot in Nigeria. From people, analyzing that until we're able to refine, until NNPC refineries are working, we cannot remove subsidy. And I don't understand where people got that formula from. Who says that if we refine, then the price of crude oil, petrol will come down? We spend all of that energy chasing NNPC refineries, spending more than 20 trillion naira, and nothing came out of it. That's money wasted. And then sometimes you see people say, and this is also a very common one, the constitution is a problem. Unless we write a new constitution, Nigeria cannot move forward. Oh, the constitution is not us that made it, it's the military. They are lying that they say we the people. I say, what is the point here? Look at the 1999 constitution, place it side by side with the 1979 constitution. You will struggle to find any difference. The 1979 constitution, nobody was complaining that it was done by the military. Then some people copied it in 1999 and it became a problem. The constitution is not the reason why there's corruption in Nigeria. It's not the reason why you have, all manners of overregulation. It's not the reason why we have, less competent people sometimes in leadership position. It's not the reason why local government are not publishing their accounts, so we don't know what they're doing. The problems we're dealing with are not to do with the constitution. People even say that you need to give more revenue to the subnational. There's too much power at the center. People misinterpret the exclusive legislative list to mean the powers of the federal government, and that's so wrong. Under Section 4 of the Constitution, the exclusive, which has the legislative powers and jurisdiction, what it means is that items on the exclusive legislative list are the item on which only the National Assembly can enact the laws. The National Assembly is not the law-making body of the federal government. It's the law-making body of the federation. That is why they enacted personal income tax, even though it's collected by states. Nigeria is not a point where we want every state to enact their personal income tax. We create chaos. So there are things where we have decided that the law should be made centrally, even if it's to be administered at the subnational level. There was no reason to move electricity and prison from exclusive list for the state to do it. All we needed to do was for National Assembly to enact a law that says that states can do XYZ. When we're analyzing the revenue assigned to subnational in Nigeria, overall, 85% of revenues in Nigeria are assigned to state and local government. Only 15% is assigned to the federal government. So the problem is not assigning more to the subnational, is optimizing what has been assigned already. So if we just focus our energy on seeking proper understanding of the issues that affect us, using data, we'll be closer to finding the solution than going chasing shadows all over the place, only to find out after 10 years that we were trying to do the wrong thing. Finally, we must position ourselves to take advantage of these reforms, including states, including local governments. So again, thank you to Dawn Commission for this platform and this discussion today. We have to be ready. We have to show that we have the capacity, which I know we do, so that from even before day one, I want to see states domesticate some of the things we have introduced by if they need to enact a law. You just imagine if states in this region go to their state's House of Assemblies to enact laws that harmonize the taxes at the state and local government. Just imagine the kind of example that will set for us. Just imagine the kind of positive impact it will have. If you have our agencies at the state that are ready to comply from day one, whenever they need memos have been written. If they need to issue guidelines have been written. Let us do that to show that we are capable of leading well. Somebody needs to be on mute. So I'll close. I'm already done with my presentation. It's already about 30-something minutes. So I close with this quote by Nelson Mandela. Life will never be easy. There'll always be risk. There'll always be uncertainty. But I'll say, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. Your hope for Nigeria is that Nigeria will be one of the best countries in the world, where we limit and reduce poverty significantly, and not the fear that the economy will collapse, Nigeria will happen to you in a negative way. All those negativity that we always focus too much on, we need to cut down on them and begin to think positively, because the way you think and what you seek is what you find. If you apply your energy on looking for the positives, you will find them. And that is why you find that in our country, there are people who are very successful doing the right thing. But then there are people who have all the skills and the capacity, and they have nothing to show for it, because they're looking for the next bad news that they'll share on social media and hype more than it is in reality. May God help us, and thank you once again. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the insightful presentation. I want us to give e-clap and e-reaction for that wonderful presentation. From shaping the perspective, from the proverbial blind man at the elephant, he has been able to take us through the trajectory of the reform from the pre-May 2023 to the reform itself today, and what could have happened if we didn't do the reform. And he also spoke on the focus of the reform, which is basically people-centered and growth-focused and efficiency-driven. He talked about what do we expect from this policy reform, which is basically to facilitate economic growth. We're talking about either from the business, household, or the government itself. And we try to also correct some misconceptions, and perhaps to also straighten some understanding about Nigeria and what we expect, because whatever we say is whatever we expect, and trying to call on the subnationals, perhaps also take the lead in leveraging some of the provisions of this law, such as the state and local government, and harmonizing their tax law for better efficiency. So without necessarily going over what he has said, we want to thank you, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Mr. Chairman, for that insightful presentation. I know that there will be a lot of follow-up questions later, but before we get into that, we want to go on to the next presenter, which is Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, the DG of NESG. But today, Dr. Taiwo Oyedele will be represented by Dr. Joseph Ogebe. Dr. Joseph Ogebe is the head of Department of Research and Development at NESG. He's an experienced macroeconomic and policy analyst with more than 7 years of experience with the World Bank. He's passionate about applying the strong and technical quantitative skill to promoting growth and development in Africa. Dr. Ogebe is well-versed in the national tax reform agenda and will be sharing his insights on strategies to unlock subnational opportunity for fiscal resilience. So this morning, let us welcome Dr. Joseph Ogebe to the platform. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Soji. First, I would like to sincerely thank Dawn Commission for organizing this, very useful workshop. It's quite interesting. I enjoyed every bit of the presentation made by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, and so I would also want to thank Mr. Taiwo Oyedele for a job well done. Not just this presentation, but in terms of the whole reform, right? Nigeria's tax reform is coming as a fresh breath for the people, not just for the people, for the government and also for businesses at large. So I would just want to share some perspective. The CEO has asked that I represent him due to prior commitment, and he's sending his apologies for not being here today. So just to share some perspectives on the new tax laws, it came as a very cheering news when the president assented to this, because over time we see this as a positive development on the fiscal side. It's a big one of the biggest fiscal reforms in a decade. This is also supported by what Mr. Taiwo Oyedele said. Yes, the biggest fiscal reforms, because it's not just doesn't cut across just your macro only. It's not just doesn't cut across just seeing improvements in revenue or improvements in tax to GDP numbers or in tax administration, but we also see this to be very useful, very positive for small businesses. So it also touches the micro, not just the macro. Because individuals, for instance, with income of less than 800,000 annually, they've been exempted from PIT, and this is a big development. As we all know, the minimum wage, if you calculate this for a whole year, most people receiving a minimum wage won't be paying taxes, especially PIT. So this is a big one. So this touches the micro individuals. We also see some kind of positive improvements for small businesses. Just like Mr. Taiwo said, small businesses, and in this sense classified as businesses earning annually less than 100 million. Previously it was around 25 million, so threshold was increased 100 million, and they will be exempted from from CIT. Also, we see some exemptions in terms of withholding tax for key sectors, manufacturing and services. And also another positive we see is in terms of the repeal of this pioneer status PSI, pioneer status incentive, because the people have been clamoring for rationalizing tax expenditure, and we see this as a positive development by introducing the economic development incentive, because this will help rationalize tax expenditure. You just get to pay 4%, rather than paying different. So you just pay 4% for the development level rather than paying different types of different amounts of taxes. So we see positive developments for individuals. We also see positive this to drive improvements, or we see positive development for small businesses and also micro businesses. And in NESG we developed this what we call economic transformation roadmap. Economic transformation is just to see how the Nigerian economy can, move from its current state, achieve stability and move to more progressive, to increase its growth, right? And one of the fundamentals for this, for the first stage, which is achieving macro stability, is that you must also achieve fiscal stability. And we see this tax law from 2016, right? The gains from the revenue side, the gains from increase in expenditure, will help to improve fiscal stability, and this will also, because it's a bucket in our economic transformation roadmap, so this is also a positive step towards driving economic transformation in the medium to long term. So for subnational, before I go, for subnational, this is also positive for subnationals because, like Mr. Taiwo Oyedele said, subnationals, the VAT allocation has been increased. They are now doing about 55% to state. And also we see more increase, because more increase we'll see more increase in their revenues. Because if you check the state's revenues, especially for southwestern states, you see that about 60 or 70% of their IGRs actually comes from your taxes, right? And if most of these taxes are harmonized, for some of these states, right, you see states paying different types of taxes, about some less than 5, while some other states and other regions pay above 20 different types of taxes. If you just pick the budget implementation report for 2024, Q4 2024, you will see that a lot of states pay above 15, thereabouts, types of taxes, right? But once most of these taxes are harmonized and more people are brought into the tax net with tax administration, this will be a positive one for the states, right? And if you have higher revenues for states, you know what that translates to? It translates to better spending, infrastructural development, and businesses will also want to come into the state. So for each of the, across the cluster, right? For individuals, small businesses, states, we see this as a positive development and a big win for everybody across the cluster. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ogebe, for your perspective, and you dwell so much on the positivity of the fiscal reforms that, apart from the macroeconomics, affecting macroeconomic fundamentals, also goes into affecting the micro aspect and even the states and all that. So thank you for your thoughts on the significance of the reform. To harvest another perspective, we are going to welcome Mr. Teslim Shitabe. Mr. Teslim Shitabe is the chief economist and managing editor of Proshare Limited. He has over 2 decades experience in financial journalism, banking, and capital market operations. He's very passionate about impact research and has really been part of a development discourse conversation. So this morning, again, we want to welcome you, Mr. Teslim Shitabe, for your thoughts. So please, you are welcome. The floor is yours. Please, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much for your kind words. I'd like to follow other speakers by expressing my joy and satisfaction in the fact that the Dawn Commission has initiated this kind of conversation, which is absolutely necessary at this point in time. I also want to thank the chairman of the Fiscal Reform Committee, Fiscal Reform and Tax Policy Committee, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, for honoring the invitation and for explaining the initiatives that have been put in place within the tax framework. Now, one thing I need to say quite honestly, and I agree totally with Mr. The chairman, is that Mr. Oyedele was correct when he said that these are sets of reforms that needed to happen. They were very critical if Nigeria was to turn the corner and revert to a path of sustained growth and development, as all of us, I'm sure, would have wished and hoped for. We need to feed into a narrative that is positive rather than the negative. The federal government has done quite well in its initiative of tax reforms that are far long in coming. We should have done them, as I agree with Mr. Oyedele, that perhaps 10 years ago. However, in saying that, it is important to note that taxes are usually imposed in economies that are growing rather than economies that are contracting. And in the data that we've already seen, the Nigerian economy, the most recent GDP shows that we have a real GDP of $243 billion, a far cry from what it was earlier, as Mr. Oyedele has also pointed out. We had about $600 billion at a point, and that came down to about $188 billion before, after rebasing, seeing an adjustment upwards to $343 billion, which places at perhaps the 4th position in Africa, behind countries like Egypt, South Africa, and perhaps Angola. So what we need to look at is how do we use taxes as incentives rather than mechanisms for raising revenue. Revenue is important, no doubt about it. But I would particularly appreciate the explanation from the chairman how we can use taxes as tools for growing the economy rather than just raising revenue. Revenue has its place, but incentivizing growth is perhaps more important at every level, national and subnational levels. And I'm happy to understand that there's more revenue going to the subnationals. But even though those revenues are going to the subnationals, how do we ensure that we harmonize activities and actions of governments at the subnational level with the aspirations of the federal government. The way the things are now, everybody's focused on what's happening at the federal level. What is happening also at the subnational level? That communication between citizens as individuals and as enterprises needs to be intensified. I've had conversations with a lot of people and they're saying, yes, this is lovely, but what about execution? But it's not just about execution, it's also about communication. Most of the things that have been designed by the committee and passed as an act now are lovely, excellent. However, there is a need for communication, communicating those outcomes, part of which is this conversation, to a broader segment of society. For instance, how does the small and medium enterprise entity understand the new tax laws? How does the individual, the household, understand the new tax laws? Are these laws going to be communicated in different national languages, different languages, not necessarily national, but is it going to be in Fufude? Is it going to be in Hausa? Is it going to be Yoruba? Is it going to be in Efik, Ibibio? That is important. We've got to get citizens buying to these beautiful amendments to our laws. If we don't, it's like us basically kissing in the dark. We've done some great stuff in terms of revising the laws, but nobody really understands those laws. Nobody knows how to act based on those laws. So I think communication of the revisions are very, very important. That being said, there's some areas that I also would like to quickly take up. And I would like to understand how these tax laws incentivize the capital market. Currently, there is no, within the framework of the law, there doesn't seem to be a provision that provides those listed on the capital market with certain tax advantages over companies that are not listed on the market. And so what we see is that there have been a large number of delistings. But I, for one, had expected that within the framework of that tax law, there will be encouragement for us to grow our capital market so that we can have a faster paced GDP growth, because the capital market, well and truly, is that platform that allows organizations, companies to have long-term funding. The money market, the banks, are basically for working capital, short-term money. But the long-term financing is sourced in the capital market. And it might be as a result of the fact that I have not comprehensively reviewed the necessary laws relating to the capital market. But so far, what I've seen has not provided that oomph, that push, that spring that will incentivize companies that are not listed to get listed. For instance, if the CIT considerations were such that you pay lower CIT if you are a listed entity relative to if you are a non-listed entity, that would have been an incentive. That would have perhaps encouraged more companies that are not listed on the various exchanges to list, exchanges like the NGX and the NESD, for instance. That's a point I would think is important. And finally, I would like to make this this presentation where Proshare looked at the various states' readiness for implementation of the tax laws. And we did that by looking at administrative capacity of the Southwestern states. We looked at the legal alignment of the Southwestern states. We looked at revenue resilience of these states. We looked at enforcement and compliance of the states. We looked at technological integration, public engagement, and we took average scores for this assessment. Now, what we found out is that a state like Lagos had perhaps the highest scores on all fronts, except in public engagement, where it had 4, because the total score was 5 for each state in each of the categories. Now, for Lagos, it was 4 in the area of public engagement. And perhaps that was actually the highest for any state. But what we saw basically is that in terms of readiness to align with the reforms at the federal level, Lagos had high, Ogun had moderately high, we had Oyo, moderate, we had Osun, low moderate, we had Ondo, moderate, and we had Ekiti, low. Now, that speaks to the differential realities of each of these states. These differential realities need to be addressed. We need to get to a position where each of these states scores about 5 across all categories that we have enumerated, such that we have a high readiness for what I call the trickle-down effect, the impact of the policies at the federal level trickling down to the subnationals, the state, local government, and eventually the household. I would like to stop there for now. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Shitabe. Thank you for your thoughts on the tax reform. Focus on the importance of the tax reform and whether to use the taxes itself as an incentive to drive growth instead of only as a tool for revenue. We also talk about harmonizing the positions of both the federal and subnational levels. You also tried to ask about the position of the tax law regarding incentive for the capital market in order to take this advantage to foster the GDP growth. And also you spoke about the state readiness in terms of assessment carried out. So thank you a lot for your thought. While we have the question and answer later, we would like to also hear from the state, because we believe that the state representatives are here. They'll be able to talk about the state readiness, because one of the objectives of this meeting is also to assess the state readiness for the implementation of these tax laws when it kicks us in January 2026. So that's why we entertain questions directly after. But I wouldn't know, Mr. Chairman, sir, that if you'd like to respond to any of the issues raised by Mr. Teslim, of any of your thoughts till now before the general question.
Yeah, I think it's better to just combine all the questions at once.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you, sir. So with that being said, we go straight to the responses from the state representatives. We have our state representatives here from all the 6 Southwest states: Ekiti, Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, and Oyo. These are just be calling them in alphabetical order, not necessarily in terms of importance or not. So just alphabetical order for consistency. So they will be telling us in terms to be enlightening us on the state readiness for the implementation of the tax laws. So representative from Ekiti State, I would like you to unmute and talk now from Ekiti State.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Ali Felix. I'm representing the Chairman of Ekiti State Internal Revenue Service, who is now in Abuja for another program. I want to stand on the existing protocol. I appreciate the Dawn Commission for this laudable program. Concerning the readiness of Ekiti State for this new law, I will say that Ekiti State are quite ready in so many areas. Actually, in Ekiti State, we are working on our tax law. We are now drafting another tax law that will repeal the existing BRR law and replace it with Ekiti State Revenue Administration law, so that it can align with the new tax reform. This will increase revenue and also eliminate double taxation. Also, we are going fully on revenue automation. We are presently operating what we call the central billing system. I think you are hearing me. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Presently, we are operating what we call the central billing system and software platform, which makes our generation of bill to be electronically. This is to reduce loopholes and also to improve revenue collection efficiency. In Ekiti State, we have consolidated revenue from MDAs, in all our MDAs, and even included some business-related revenue item of the local government, so that we are going to, in order to minimize or to eliminate what we call double or multiple taxation. We have harmonized bill that we are raising that we allow taxpayer to just have a bill that will contain all the collectible from the state and from the MDAs through the central billing system that we are operating. Then, even in preparation for this tax reform, earlier Ekiti State has introduced what we call Data Intelligence Department. Since low-income earner is likely to be eliminated, or it will be eliminated from collection of taxes. Therefore, we have to dwell on the high net worth individual, and without that, without having what we call data mining, it will be very, very difficult. That's the reason why Internal Revenue Service has introduced what we call Data Intelligence Department for data mining. We have even gone to Lagos State Internal Revenue Service for peer review and to attend some training with them in preparation for this particular tax reform. Every time we are always in training in the Internal Revenue Service. We are spending so much on training of our staff, and even during the time of the reform, during the time of implementation of the drafting of the reform, each time there is opportunity, the Internal Revenue Service chairman we assemble all the core officers to listen so that we can go on with them. There are so many things. Infrastructure, tax infrastructure is being improved in Ekiti State. Presently, the Ekiti State government has approved the building of a new revenue house for Internal Revenue Service, and so that tax infrastructure will be improved. And also in some of our stations, we are renovating some of our tax stations so that our officer will also have what we call a good place to work, and be able to accommodate the necessary tax infrastructure so that we'll be able to implement this tax reform as it were. Then you see, every time sensitization, we dwell much on sensitization of taxpayers. The Internal Revenue Service, we take opportunity of any program in the television stations to educate the taxpayers. Every time he be on the television on a special program to educate the taxpayer, to sensitize the public. All these things are the things we are doing in the Internal Revenue Service to see that we are ready.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Kindly round up. Thank you, sir. Mr. Felix Ale, we appreciate you.
Yes. For want of time, let me appreciate you. Let me thank you for this opportunity. You are welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Felix. We appreciate you. Thank you for giving us insight into the Ekiti State's readiness for the implementation of the new tax reform. Please, I would like us to stay within 5 minutes max for our presentation from the state, so that we can entertain question and answer, and so that we can also get responses from other participants. So thank you once again, Ekiti State. So the next, we are going to Lagos State. Lagos State representative, please, you can go ahead now.
All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. the executive chairman, and it's good to be on this call. So I'm adopting the essentially mode, that is, be prepared. And since we noticed that this was going to come up, I guess we've just been preparing ourselves to eventually the date that we have a sign-off at the federal level, and then we can key into the program. So the first thing that I can say is that, yes, we are prepared to align, and basically some of the things also work in our favor. The first thing will be about the domestication of law in Lagos. And the beauty of it is that, as you may probably be aware, it was under the regime of this same president that the state government in Lagos had the RAL in 2006. It's a dated law, and under the SIFTAS program, World Bank and MOF, that's been Federal Ministry of Finance program for the states on fiscal transparency, update that law. So in 2022, thereabout, we did what we call the RAUL, that is changing the RAL, the Revenue Administration Law, to Revenue Administration Unification Law, to make it up to date. But sometimes bad things also work best for you. It got stuck between our end and the Ministry of Justice. So when this presidential committee came up in 2023, we just thought we shouldn't push it further, that let's wait for the outcome so that we can just integrate all the issues that will come up from the outcome or the output from this, from the commendable efforts of the committee led by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. So that one, as it were. So we already have a framework within which, once we see the signed or gazetted copy of the new laws, and then we make some small adjustments, then we push it through to the assembly. So that has it been. Then we realized also that, yes, our operations are essentially electronic in Lagos, but given the snippets of the things that we heard or that we know that is coming out from the law, we, at the state level, we are elected to be, there will be an avalanche of data that we need to maybe not only to maybe store, we also need to process. And then, so it means we need to expand our data storage capacity. So in Lagos, what we are looking at will be something in the range of, if not twice what we have now, but maybe 1.8. We increased by about 80% of our storage capacity to see. And then, of course, we make it is an ongoing thing, and we just expand as the data come in. But the beauty of data is that sometimes when you have too much of data also, it can be overwhelming. So you need to improve your capacity to be able to analyze it. And so it means we need to invest also in data analytics capacity. These are things that we have already budgeted for, even in the current year. And so it will become handy for us to do. And also there's, of course, we must not forget the fact that we need to invest, which we're already doing, in terms of data confidentiality, safety, and security. Because once we have all those things, we need to sort of maybe get close to what they have in the financial institutions, if not better. So those are things that we are planning to put in place, because it's important to understand that we need to have a kind of digital handshake with especially the JRB that is coming up now in terms of harmonization and data interoperability of abilities. Those are things that we know we need to put in place, which we have already budgeted for and planning towards. So that tells you a status of our readiness to key into the program of these reforms. And of course, we won't forget the issue of sensitization of all stakeholders, not only taxpayers, but also consultants and whatever that operate within the space in Lagos here. So those are the areas which we already have plans for, and we have a committee in place. So, but we don't want to go ahead of ourselves until we'll see the final document signed. And I can, about a month ago or thereabout, I was asking my brother Taiwo that he should give me data on the issue of attribution by VAT. So I can assure him that what I did was very simple, is that I've used proxy data from the EMTL, which also that's why sometimes when people do bad things, it works out for you, because the VAT model was due for the EMTL, so I could use that as proxy data for VAT. And it's looking like Lagos may not be worse off as long as we're able to attain about 30% or 33% of consumption, then we'll be good under VAT, despite the fact that we are going to move consumption. So I think I'll stop there. And then if there are any questions, I'll be able to click on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akadiabidin from Lagos IRS. Thanks for your perspective on the Lagos State readiness. So without wasting more time again, we want to go into Ogun State. Please, Ogun State representative, you can speak now. Please, let's stay within the 5 minutes frame to be able to give room for questions and answers. Please, Ogun State, you can go ahead. Ogun State representative, you have the floor now.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Taiwo Oyedele from Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. Now we are ready at Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, and we have put a lot of measures in place. Like what we are doing now is just to update our systems and technology in a way that it will comply with the new tax reform and also our e-filing tax portals, pay calculators. We are putting that one in place so that we want that one to be available in readiness with that new tax reform. Then other thing now that we are considering in preparation for this new tax reform, we have employer engagement. We are planning to have employer engagement, issue updated pay deductions, calculators, and all these things with all the key employees and also the MD in their what this thing will, there will be the implication on their payroll. Then we also plan to have a lot of public awareness, which we are going to roll out the taxpayer guides, the frequently question and answer on this new tax reform. Then also, we are of the view that the audit and monitoring, we are launching a targeted HNI audit and monitoring. Then some private sector employees who are earning a lot of income, but they are undisclosing it. We and also the professionals, we are looking at someone to have them in. Then also we have we are planning to do a lot of revenue risk to organize the stakeholders and staff briefing in this for this new tax reform. Then we also plan to have issue of technical circular to all the employers. These are the things that we are putting in place in Ogun State in order to prepare us ready for this tax reform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on Ogun State readiness for the implementation of the tax law. Thank you so much. So next day we move to Ondo State. Ondo State representative, please, you can unmute your mic now and talk. Thank you. Ondo State representative. Ondo State. Okay, while waiting, perhaps you can go to Osun State representative if you are ready. Osun State representative. Also, while waiting, representative from Oyo State, you can speak. Anyway, while we are waiting for the other, perhaps the other state representatives are trying to join, please, we are waiting. Any representative from Ondo, Osun, or Oyo can please speak up. Yeah. But while waiting, I guess we can begin to, maybe that should be the first session. I think the 3 states have spoken. So while we are waiting for the second part, I would like to invite Mr. Abiodun Oladipo, the head of programs at DOC Commission, to handle the Q&A session for now. Thank you. Mr. Abiodun, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the chairman, the DG, and Dr. Soji Faraibi for the presentation. So I think we can start with some questions that were dropped in the comment section. So though some of them have been raised, by Mr. Shitabe, but so I'll just quickly read them out, and while we wait for the chairman to respond to some of those questions. So number one says that how can the federal government influence states to harness the revenue at their disposal instead of relying on only allocation? There is also the one that is talking about how can state and LGAs, local government administrations, leverage on this tax reform to improve their IGR. It's also similar to the first question. The other one is how can the taxes be used as a tools for growing the economy other than just raising revenue? I think Mr. Shitabe raised that question earlier. Then how does the tax laws incentivize the capital market, especially the companies that are not listed on the capital market? And also, how will the new tax return policy affect the financial obligations and daily lives of ordinary citizens, especially those in low and middle income brackets? So those are the first set of questions that have been asked. I don't know if the chairman wants to respond before we declare the floor open for yet other set of questions.
Yes, thank you. So I can address those. Maybe that would also help address the other question that some participants may have. So the first one is, how can the FG influence states to harness the revenues that they have assigned to them? So that's exactly what the tax reform has been trying to do. Of course, the federal government has set up our committee, but like I said to you, the bulk of the benefit is coming to the subnational. So part of what we are doing is building an intelligence system that connects the intelligence within the system. Our income from personal income tax is abysmal. I think last year was when we managed to collect about 2 trillion from personal income tax, when countries like South Africa they collected over 45, actually 50 trillion naira equivalent from personal income tax alone. So if you look at the level of consumption, what FRS is collecting from VAT, that alone tells you that our personal income tax is significantly underperforming. So you should collect more from personal income tax than you collect from value-added tax. So the system we are building now will help states to collect more in personal income tax. Our personal income tax in Nigeria should not be less than 10 trillion naira. It should not be 1 point something trillion. You also have property tax. All the property tax collected from Nigeria has never been up to 500 billion in any year. So why is property tax not 6 trillion naira? Like, people can't hide the property is there. Even if you just focus on capital city and maybe second cities, why are we not collecting those things? In many of the states, it's even like rocket science just to even transfer land title. So a lot of transfer of title happens without anybody going to government because it's an impossible task. You have the World Bank that has supported states to develop some, register for land, but they're not even using it. So there are things we have to even do on our own. I don't think the federal government, in my view, have done a lot to try and create a framework, but people need to embrace these things for it to work. How can the state and LG leverage reform to improve revenue? We've identified that. We think that local government should collect only one tax. So this whole idea of we are looking for radio levy, TV license, wheelbarrow tax, bicycle levy, produce tax, these things have not taken us anywhere. So if you harmonize all of it and you collect only one tax, that is graded based on what you do. Maybe a mechanic will pay 10,000 in a year. Maybe your car rider will pay 12,000, and you can pay it as you go along on your phone. Not the ones you go and put, wood and nail on the road and be fighting people. Some people even hold cane. Like, we're not in 1814 anymore. We've advanced beyond those very rudimentary and embarrassing way that we try to collect tax. There is no yielding result. Most of those things the results are yielded to private pockets. So society cannot move forward like that. I don't know of any even smaller country, even in Africa, where they collect taxes the way we do today. So we need to change our ways. I know politicians always prioritize, their base. They want to be reelected, but we have to think about something bigger than our next political aspiration to move forward. How can we use reform to improve economy, not just tax it? So actually, that's what these reforms have done. I started by telling us all the exemptions that we have provided in these reforms. I told you even for the large businesses, we're reducing their corporate tax rates. So somebody was asking me whether we'll still have revenue after all this reform. So this is not a reform that is trying to tax people more. It's reducing the tax burden. We expect our tax revenue to come from a few areas. Number one is close the tax gap. So I just gave you the example of personal income tax. Even without increasing personal income tax rates, we should be collecting about 5 times more than we're collecting today if everybody is paying their income tax correctly. So if you build a system to close that gap, you collect more. Same thing with VAT. Every single tax in Nigeria, capital gains, property tax, all those taxes can yield more if everybody pays their fair share. And the other area where we are expecting revenue to come from is rationalization of incentives. So we have a lot of wasteful incentives. And once you address that, the money will come to the government. In addition to that, we're also trying to improve efficiency of collection, and cost of collection should be reduced. If you have 60 agencies at the federal level collecting taxes and levies, in some of the states, you have more than 10 agencies collecting levies, right? Even Lagos State, that is the most sophisticated, Lagos State, government takes the view that property tax is not a tax. And then they give property tax to another agency. I don't understand that. That's why it's called property tax. It's a tax. Let the Internal Revenue Service collect all the taxes. So we have to do these things and just do them right. The efficiency you gain from harmonizing how you collect taxes, it's a big win for your revenue administration and revenue that comes to the government. So we have a lot of low-hanging fruits. We just need to pick them up. How can the reforms improve the capital market? Yeah, again, my brother, once you go through the laws, you see a lot of your questions have already been answered. In the reforms, we were not convinced enough that we have the data to create a distinction between listed entities and unlisted entities, like having a lower rate for listed entity versus unlisted. We think that what is important is to compel everybody to do the right thing and be transparent about it, and then cut the tax rates for everybody. By reducing CIT rate for businesses, it will benefit the capital market. We've raised the threshold for capital gains tax if you sell your shares to 150 million naira a year. So if what you are selling is less than 150 million a year, you don't pay CGT. That covers 99.9% of people who are investing in the stock market. The people who do more than 150 million a year are mostly institutional investors and high net worth individuals. And even than that, even if you sell more than 150 million and you reinvest it, you won't pay the tax. So we have a lot of provisions already to encourage. That's why the capital market, I told you that the reforms of this government is the reason why the capital market has been doing well. We want it to do better. The entire capital market in Nigeria is under $60 billion. South Africa is more than $1 trillion. So why can't we have a capital market that is $1 trillion as well? So those are the aspirations we have, and the reforms will move us in that direction. So the last one is impact on low income and middle class. I think I've said that many times. There's no point repeating it. We reduce the income tax on middle class. We've eliminated it on low income, and we reduce the taxes or eliminated it on consumption of household. Overall, this combined impact would improve the lives and well-being of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that apt response to those questions. Thank you so much. We'll open the line for another set of questions. Mr. Abdullah Adeboyega is raising up his hand. Please, can you just go ahead and ask the question, please?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taiwo, for your contribution for the presentation so far. So I have a question, and I have just something to say about Southwest as well. But my first question, which is for me, Mr. Taiwo, is it's not mainly on tax. I want to ask a question about your fiscal reform. We've seen some progress when it comes to the monetary reform. I know one of the work to be done on this fiscal reform is the tax bill as well, which has been passed. And I believe by the time it started working, it's going to relieve people to some extent. But I just wanted to ask, I know that you are working generally on fiscal reform. What are the next thing, aside the tax reform, what are the next thing that we can do, that or we expected from your team that might actually help? We know that we have a president that actually took the started these reforms, which are actually good. But there are some people that actually felt they really feel this thing that's going on, probably because they became much more poor. So what can we do to make, what are the reforms because what I've read a lot on Twitter, majorly people talk about monetary reform has been doing well. So we really need the fiscal reform. I know you are not Mr. Wale and it's not here, but what are the things that you can actually help us to tell them the things that we can, think they need to consider so that the fiscal reform also will be on par with the monetary reform that they're doing on with the CBN. So that's my main question. And what I also have to say is that this is just a general thing. I don't know. I'm not sure you are the one saying. I just feel we have few people like you that are not politicians that are also actually working with the president right now. This man is from our region. why are they not out to talk about some of this reform? I've listened to you. I was also listening to you yesterday on one of the programs so you've talked a lot about this reform that you are going. So why our people, the people that we thought, okay, these are like technocrats, why are they so like shy to come on to public to talk about these reforms? You've done so well than most of these people that are, most of, it's really like embarrassing that they cannot
Mr.
actually
Abdullah,
talk.
please, let's
That's
keep
it.
our questions. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Abdullah. And there's no hands up. Let me just read out some questions that I also have here. I think some will also go to Dawn Commission because of the way it's described. I'm not sure that it's the responsibility of the chairman to answer this one. And this is what we're talking about how to ensure state in the Southwest is not left behind by adopting the changes. Is there a possibility for a coordinated approach to leverage scale and speed in localizing the new laws in the states? I think Dawn Commissions should be able to speak to that. And another similar one to that is what is the next phase after this law has been passed? Okay, we know that it's going to happen in 2016. What should state be doing presently? So the chairman can help us with that. What the state should be doing in getting ready for that commencement in January 2026. So, okay, so then there's another one here that said about how can the informal sector, which contributes over 54% to Nigerian GDP, be transitioned from levy-based payment to a formal taxation frameworks under the new tax bills without compounding the poverty or triggering non-compliance? I think the chairman can also help us with that. All right, I think the other questions have been addressed. So for us to save our time, we should just move to the one that has not been attended to. So over to you, sir, Mr. Chairman, and Dawn Commission. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. So I need to join another event in about 3 minutes. So I'll just be quick with this. What are the next things for our fiscal reforms? Yeah, so quite a lot. We are working on amending the Constitution to address how we do budgets. We're working on a national fiscal policy framework that will guide us on how we spend our money, the priority of spending, quality of spending, and how we borrow as well. And also our policy around things like subsidy, conditional cash transfers, and so on and so forth. So there's still a lot we are working on, and we encourage people the tax reform became popular because of the controversy, but it's actually less than 20% of the work we are doing. So we encourage people to follow us. We have a dedicated website. There's a YouTube account. All the social media accounts are there. We even have a WhatsApp account. So please engage with us. We are working for the country, and it's your reform as well, because it is your country. That narrative of monetary reform, monetary policy doing their best, fiscal needs to do their own. It's a very common narrative. But sometimes I feel like we don't put it in proper context. So the current CBN leadership are trying their best, but the biggest damage to our economy was caused by the monetary policy authorities in the government before this current one. The reason why Naira is 1,500 today is because of the monetary authority. They mismanage our FX. If they did not mismanage it, Naira would be like 300 Naira, because that's the comparative decline to Kenya shillings and South Africa, where we have comparative balance of payments. We mismanage our own. That's why Nigeria is not a $1 trillion economy today. That's why there's more poverty. So I think the message is more like we just need to complement ourselves. Is not to blame one one policy organ of government, against the other. We have to work together. If one leg is working and the other one is not working, you can't win a race. Why are some of our technocrats not speaking out or coming? I think it's an individual thing. We can't compel anybody to speak up or to come out. This tax law, for example, are not the easiest thing to read. So you need to have that passion to try and understand it and be able to speak up. So I encourage as many of us, there are a lot of technocrats on this call. Even bureaucrats can speak up as well. So let's anything that makes sense to us that helps our country, let's push it forward, because what we find is the negativity are the ones that are projected the most. So even if you have 10 reforms, and 9 of them are positive, and one is negative, it is that one that is negative that have the greatest number of. I just love negative news. They look for it desperately. How to ensure that states in the Southwest have a session you're having today, take it forward from here and connect. You have commissioners, finance commissioners, you have internal revenue services, you have your governors. Let them sit together and develop a plan for the region, including a template. We're going to even do some of that. Let it up most of those things, including a template for harmonizing taxes at the state level, including ensuring that you empower the revenue service more, right? These things are within our powers. If you make sure that the property tax, land reform, land development is done properly in your state, you become a global example, not even a Nigerian example. The whole world will celebrate you, because these things are like easy peasy stuff that we refuse to do for decades. And the last one is, okay, so the second to the last is, what's the next phase for the reform and what should state be doing? So the next phase is just the implementation that we're doing now. This implementation has so many dimensions to it. We have to issue regulations, guidelines, public notices. We have to build capacity. At the state level, you need to simulate what these reforms will mean for you from January next year and put it in your budget. So it will affect both your revenue budget and your spending. So you can't go to 2026 to find out what this will look like. Now that you're doing your budget call, you should do those things by now and figure them out. You need to do more training. You need to invest in technology, and so on and so forth. Then finally is, how can the informal sector be transitioned from just paying fees to being able to pay taxes? That's also what we have done already. If you remove all the nuisance taxes we ask them to pay, and you ask them to pay just one tax, in that one tax, I guarantee you will collect more than 20 times. The whole of Nigeria in 2022, local government did not collect 50 billion. How is it possible that local government cannot collect 50 billion? 50 billion is what 2 or 3 local governments in Lagos should collect. So it's because we are not doing things the right way. You know, we're very good at messing up everything for our personal and selfish interests. There are people who have outsourced taxes to their friends. You collect 20 million from them, and those guys will go and collect 200 million, printing receipts at every turn and stickers. Again, we have to decide which kind of country we want and try and do it. It may not be convenient for us individually, but so long as we are protecting our selfish interests, we will not move forward. Countries are built by people who are passionate about their country, and they put collective interest over individual interest. There is a popular saying that a rising tide will lift all boats. If Nigeria is doing well, all of us will progress. But if you're trying to do well alone, you will succeed, and then your house will look like a prison because your fence will be very high because you're afraid of your neighbor. That's not success to me. Thank you very much once again, and all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your kind response. So, okay, so please, I hand over to Soji back, since that's the last for the question and answer session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Abiodun. And perhaps to answer some of the questions you asked in terms of advocating the Southwest region for the in terms of the readiness for the implementation, I would like to go to the next step. I think that should be our next step, and really well articulated there. So I will call on Mr. Bode Adenigo, FCA, who is the finance manager at Dawn Commission, to help us talk into the next steps, so that perhaps we could see the next steps concerning the tax law. Mr. Bode, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Soji, and thank you, everyone. So my name is Bode Adenigo, and I'm talking about the next step. So we are looking at how to move from the dialogue stage to the delivery stage, so the next step now. However, because of the limitation of this platform, So the timelines to the next steps will not be included. So later, the full implementation plan will be ready and will be shared with everyone. So the first next step is one, state readiness assessment report. Because that Proshare has done the assessment report. So Dawn Commission will be meeting with Proshare to review the report and also prepare the state in areas that the states are in areas that are not being yet taken care of by the state. So then interstate working group. So this is very key. By interstate working group, what we mean is that Dawn Commission should facilitate the setting up of COP. COP is community of practice. Number one, for knowledge sharing, for peer and collaborative learning among the Southwest state actors. So Dawn Commission coordinates COPs across different sectors. So we have the COPs of commissioners, stakeholders for education in other stakeholders. So we don't have for Board of Internal Revenue and Revenue Agency. So by this section this afternoon, so Dawn Commission will be setting up that community of parties so that states can learn from each other, and also it will be a platform for communication and reform implementation. Then also stakeholder engagement framework. So this will be designed by Dawn. So there will be on regional basis, there will be sessions of communication and comprehensions of the reform. You know, like Mr. Taiwo Oyedele said that his prescription is that we should seek knowledge, and that is one of the things that's affecting the understandings of the reform. So the Dawn Commission will be looking at how to develop a framework that will prepare the communication and comprehensions of the reform. Then also the harmonization of Southwest states and local government taxes and levies is very key. So then the state laws, the state laws vis-a-vis the national reform, the Commission will be looking at how the states that are yet to draft, how the states that are yet to draft their specific bills to domesticate the reform. Then also Southwest regional implementation strategy, you know, like Mr. Oyedele just mentioned, that the states, okay. So Southwest regional implementation strategy plan. So there will be a coordinated approach now in developing a regional plan in order to implement this reform. So Dawn Commission will also be working with relevant internal revenue agencies and other state stakeholders to come up with that implementation plan. Then, lastly, the capacity building plan, we also, I think, this is also part of what will be embedded in the implementation plan. So there will be need for training design across not just a state-specific training, but on regional approach now. There will be a need to design training plan for especially the informal sector, bring them on board and also get their buy-in. So these action points will be elaborated later and will be shared and made as an implementation plan for everybody to see. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bode. Thanks a lot. So we call on Prince Adetayo Adededoyin, the head of special project and funding, Dawn Commission, for the vote of thanks. Thank you. Please, you can talk now.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and can you hear me? Hello,
yes,
can you hear
me? Hear you. Yes, we can hear you, please.
You can hear me now. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Distinguished speakers, esteemed participants, and our ladies and gentlemen, well, I'm sure that was a very, very informative session. So on behalf of the Dawn Commission, I extend our deepest gratitude to everyone who was able to join today's development discourse on navigating Nigeria's tax policy reforms, themed unlocking subnational opportunities for fiscal resilience. A special thank you and profound gratitude to our distinguished speakers Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the Chairman, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Thank you so much for joining us. We thoroughly enjoyed your delivery. It's been very clear, very lucid, and your passion for Nigeria, was evident. The representative of Mr. Zach Adedeji, the Executive Chairman of the FIRS, Mr. Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, representative from the Nigerian Economics Group, and Teslim Shitabe from Proshare. Proshare is our forever partner here at the Dawn Commission. We thank you for joining again. And of course, our executives from bits of Southwest Nigeria. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Your insightful contributions have illuminated the path towards harnessing tax reforms for improved subnational fiscal resilience and addressing both immediate policy imperatives and the broader goals of sustainable development of our region and the country. To all our attendees, we thank you as well. Your engagement and thoughtful questions have enriched this discourse. We thank the technical team of Dawn Commission. There was no NEPA failure today, or the internet didn't go up, so we thank you for that. From the Commission, we encourage each and every one of us to encourage open minds and a shared commitment to solutions that can strengthen fiscal resilience while supporting inclusive growth in our region and Nigeria. We should also know that today's discourse was not just to inform us, but also to inspire coordinated action towards building a tax system that truly serves the people of Nigeria, support Nigeria as a whole. As managers of Western Nigeria Education Agenda, Dawn Commission remains committed to facilitating key dialogues such as these, and hopefully translate them into actionable policies and partnerships, strengthening our state to greater prosperity and resilience. So once again, on behalf of my Dr. Oyedele and the entire team here at the Dawn Commission, I wish us all a very productive day, a very productive week, and we look forward to having everyone here once again in some of our other programs and projects here at Dawn Commission. Thank you all for participating.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you a lot for the vote of thanks. We appreciate you. The development discourse is always come up for different topics. So until the next time when we also bring another topic to engage you, we want to hope that continue to spread the good news and engage on different important topics that would see to the competitiveness of Nigeria and the Southwest and the entire region. So I want to thank everyone once again for participating. Any other AOB before we go finally?
Well, just to say thank you on behalf again to everybody. Thank you. And the turnout has been extremely impressive. And we're grateful for the time, and it can only get better for Nigeria, and particularly Western Nigeria. Thank you for everyone who has joined from all over the world. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you, Sir DG. Yes, our social media handles are on. You can connect with us on all our social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on X, and you can engage with all the questions. If we are unable to answer your question, or you're able to make unable to make a contribution today, because of the nature of online virtual meetings must not be unnecessarily long. That's why we couldn't take all your questions, but you can engage with us, connect with us on our social media platforms, so that we can continue the conversation and engaging. And if you have any questions to us, you can send us to us at Dawn Commission. So once again, thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the way of your day. Thank you.